Settled. Hi, Ricky.
Hello.
I think we have quorum. If you are ready to get started, we can start whenever you are.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm on my phone at the moment. My computer's not quite caught up to everything just yet, trying to get everything loaded and whatnot, but I'm on my phone. And
Okay.
let's see, I believe
If
we
you need
can
me
get
to
going.
help with anything, let me know. We do have some public waiting in the lobby, so just let me know when you're settled and I will let them in and we can get the meeting started.
Okay. I don't know, I can wing it.
All right. I'll put up the agenda and I can help you through that in case you can't see it very well. But I'm going to let in
Thank you.
everyone else. All right. Commissioner Conway, we are ready to start.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate everybody for joining us here on this wonderful Monday for the City of Flagstaff's easy for me to say, Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Today is the 21st of March, and I still don't have that agenda up, so I don't. I'm trying to ramble on until it loads, but my computer is just not cooperating. Hey, look at that. All right. Let's start with some roll call. We'll start with the commission members. I am here. Brenda Linsky, Commissioner Linsky, are you here?
She just emailed me. She's not able to join us today.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Parsons, Co-Chair Parsons.
I'm here.
Is here. Thank you. Commissioner Stackhouse.
I am here.
Commissioner Kerr.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Commissioner Martin. Commissioner Martin waving hello. Hello. And last, Commissioner Rowden.
Here.
Did I say that right? Rowden?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Perfect. Okay. Wonderful. I believe we're just missing the one then. And Council Member Salas, I see you have a new check mark up there at the top. Let's make sure you're here today. How are you doing today?
I'm here at City Hall.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We very much appreciate that. All right, roll call has been completed. Let us move right into the meeting minutes, which were sent to us last week by the wonderful Parks and Rec staff. Thank you for sending those over our way. I myself got a chance to review them. Did everybody else get an opportunity to review them? And do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Or any changes that need to be reflected in those minutes?
Commissioner Parsons moves to approve the minutes.
I second.
Commissioner Parsons, and we got a second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or any? Hold on a second. I got to make a change. All right. Looks like all the yays have it. Now we get to roll into public participation, which I do like the idea of me just reading this. I'm going to turn off my camera because it is just very weird angle. All right, moving on to this quick blurb here about public participation to make sure we are all on the same page as it pertains to public participation. This portion of the meeting is for items that are not on the agenda. The commission cannot act on items presented during the public participation of the agenda. The commission is prohibited by the open meeting law from discussing or considering the item until such a time that the item is officially placed on an agenda. And anybody choosing to participate during this section, please do limit your comments to 5 minutes. Do we have anybody here in the meeting today to talk about something not on the agenda? Again, understanding the limitations of the commission. If we do, hear such an item. All right. I don't see any hands up, nor do I see any chat. Nothing to indicate that someone is looking to speak at this part of the agenda. All right. As long as we're on agreement that, that we are ready to move on, let's go on to discussion items. We are right now going to discuss the regional plan update process, comprehensive planning staff. I guess I'm turning this over to Rebecca.
And
You wanna
I
turn
am
it over?
quickly I'm gonna turn it over to Mark Revis and Jordan Hollinger are here from city staff, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
I am Mark Revis. I am the Heritage Preservation Officer and Neighborhood Planner, and today I get to do a quick presentation on the regional plan update. And Jordan's gonna follow me on this. Get it, Jordan?
Yep, I'll get the slides up and rolling here in a second. Mark, we can't see you if you did want to be seen.
I have my camera. I've been having issues.
Okay.
I do have my camera on.
All right.
Mark, are you on a laptop?
No, I'm in the office on my.
And your
Hi.
camera is uncovered? Because it just looks like it's covered up.
It's nice and red, and I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I had
All
problems
right.
today. It ain't that pretty of a face anyway, so.
All right. So before I pull up the slides here, hopefully you saw that there will be an interactive component at the end of the presentation that Mark's going to give. And I wanted to just provide the link to the digital whiteboard platform that we are going to use for that, just so that the commissioners can try to get logged in ahead of time. And if there are any issues, we can quickly troubleshoot at the end. So I'm going to put that in the chat. And this will just be for commissioners, or if the commissioners want any members of staff to participate as well, they can do so. But I just put that in the chat, and I'll quick share my screen so you can see what this will look like as you start to get logged in. So you should, as you get logged in here, it should take you to this platform where you see kind of this colorful grid. So feel free to go ahead and try to get. I see some people starting to pop in there, so that's great. And then I will have the presentation up here. And I will turn off my camera and mute myself. Oop. And go ahead, Mark.
Okay. And what's relative to this SWOT exercise is what is currently in the regional plan and what we're doing to update the regional plan. Next slide, please. So what's in the regional plan? What is currently in the 2030 plan? What is specific to Parks and Recreation? And what is being done to update the regional plan? And then again at the end, the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Next. So what's important about the regional plan when you look at this pyramid? The regional plan is at the top. All other plans are pulled from that in this pyramid, whether it's a neighborhood specific plan, Parks and Rec, utilities, transportation. And then implementation is the final effort, which does take a whole lot of effort to accomplish, but you need to start with the regional plan and those main policies and goals that are stated in there. Next. So why is it regional? Because it is City of Flagstaff and a limited area of Coconino County. So it serves as general plan for the city. It must be ratified by the voters, and it supports land use decisions, policy making, water supply. In Coconino County, it's an amendment to the county comprehensive plan. It's adopted by the Board of Supervisors, and it's provided in a map of areas and places and types that is further refined in the area plans. Next, please. So there's the region. You can kind of look at the boundaries of this rectangle. So up toward Sunset Crater, over toward Camp Navajo, and the other boundaries. Again, there's a focus on land use, on activity centers, on particular uses, particular zoning. It's quite complex. Next, please. So what did the public want Flagstaff Regional Plan 2030 to do? Hold government accountable for publicly derived policy outcomes and goals, guide physical and economic development, establish priorities for the public action, the direction for complementing private decisions, and encourage predictable decision making. Next. So currently there are quite a few goals and very many policies associated with this. There might be an effort to squeeze this down to be a little more concise and equally represent various interests. There's a generalized land use map with clearly defined activity centers. It's utilized in transportation modeling as well. Multimodal transportation was an emphasis, and it's a foundation for water supply. Next, please. So in 2030, all residents and visitors have easy access to recreational opportunities, which have increased with creative financing and partnerships. That is the current noted vision in your document. The duties of the commission and the enabling legislation is for for the commission to write periodic reports to the council recommending policy direction on city land structures and facilities that are set aside or should be set aside or dedicated to recreational purposes. So the goal is the primary thing on recreation here. Maintain and grow the region's healthy systems of convenient and accessible parks, recreation facilities, and trails. So there's multiple policies that follow. Integrate active and passive recreational sites within walking distance. I'll kind of paraphrase these. Policy 1.2, promote public and private partnership to offer parks, recreation facilities, and resources. Next. 1.3, coordinate city, county, and Forest Service recreational planning to best serve the community. So that's that outreach to the region. 1.4, design new or updated public facilities to include parks, open space, and/or recreational opportunities where feasible. 1.5, incorporate sustainable building and maintenance technologies and universal design into parks and recreation facilities. Next. Recreation is also noted in other policies, environmental planning and conservation, water resources, growth areas and land use. It's noted and integrated. Transportation is noted as safe bicycling as portion of the transportation and recreation. Next. Park policies. Those are noted as policy in a land use. I'll paraphrase those multiple policies. Maintain Heritage Square and Wheeler Park. Locate civic parks within neighborhoods. Open space and foots provide access and well-designed facilities within their own context. Neighborhoods and housing and urban conservation policy is NH 1.6. New development to provide parks and civic spaces interconnected with others. You can see how these things kind of work together and overlap. Next. When you look at the regional plan, you can actually kind of see this cross-pollination with all sorts of things within the regional plan. Even though it's noted as specific, there are certainly things that you can think about if you took the time to look at the entire current regional plan, how these things kind of interconnect. Next, please. So we are at the very beginning, phase 1. Get curious and gain understanding. That is why we are asking for this SWOT exercise, why it's very important so you understand what the strengths are of the current plan and where you also would see the opportunities. So Jordan will take you through that in a bit, but get your mindset on that. Next, please. What are the ingredients of a regional plan? As you can see, it gets quite complex. There's a whole lot of information that we have to pull together: data, community vision, intergovernmental coordination. All these things are going to be looked at and pulled together over this 4-year time period. Next. Again, understanding the complexity of this and where Parks and Recreation fits into this. You're quite well represented within the current regional plan. Again, being able to look at things and see where there's potential weaknesses is important as well. So we're going to have to manage over 180 data metrics. We're looking within the current plan and beyond the plan, and scenarios, testing, ensure longevity of the plan and the fact that this regional plan is flexible. Next. Emerging issues. As you probably know, carbon neutrality, strong emphasis on bicycle, pedestrian, and transit, more integration of climate change into land use, economic development, and housing. Equity and inclusion has become very important in nationwide planning, as well as here in Flagstaff. New housing affordability strategies. Again, Parks and Rec has a lot to do with public health and accessibility to health, which is integrated and a part of Parks and Recreation, and emerging technologies. So vehicle automation, transportation, electrification, and broadband. Next. So the important people to contact are Sarah Dector and with the county, Melissa Shaw, and that's their information here. So I will turn over the SWOT analysis to Jordan. Thank you. Unless there's any questions on mine, we can always come back to my effort.
Yeah, we can do questions as we get going here too, Mark. Yeah, as Mark said, what we're going to try to do now is engage the commissioners with a brief SWOT analysis. And the questions that we're asking you to consider are up here on this slide. So for strengths and weaknesses, we're asking you to think about the current regional plan. What are the strengths that you see of the current regional plan? What are some of the weaknesses, with kind of a particular focus on Parks and Recreation, so sort of your domain, but you can also feel free to include ideas, just more general ideas as well, in terms of strengths and weaknesses of the plan. And then for opportunities and threats, we are asking you to think forward to the regional plan update and to start thinking about what opportunities we might have to revise sections of the regional plan related to Parks and Recreation. What are some of the threats that we might see over the next few years to implementing some of those ideas? So I will switch over here to the end. Looks like folks were able to get into the whiteboard here, so that is great. Is there anybody that was having issues getting into this platform, or that you don't see here? We can try to troubleshoot if anyone's missing.
Jordan, it's Rebecca. Commissioner Rowden, I'm not seeing you. as a participant. Are you able to get in there?
Sorry, I'm checking now. I'm on my phone and I just got a new phone.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. That's why I wanted to double check before we dive in. And yeah, the other folks that I see on here, Jordan, are commissioners. So
Okay, great.
low back is Ryan Martin, Ricky the Wreck is or Ricky the C. That's Ricky, our chair.
Great.
Worm Turn JS is Josh Stackhouse, and there's Dana. So it looks like we've got all the commissioners in there.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so the way that this works, so you can see here that we have these 4 different boxes that correspond to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what we're asking you to do is just populate these different sections with ideas that you have. This is pretty preliminary, so it doesn't have to be super well thought out, just any ideas that you have to fit within these boxes. And the way that you contribute to this is by clicking on this little plus symbol here, and it'll allow you to type in an idea, and then you can just hit enter to populate that within the respective rectangle. So I will remove this idea here. So feel free to go ahead and get started just noting ideas. So once I'll give 10 minutes or so for ideas to be populated here, and then we're actually going to go into a rating exercise where we will rate the various ideas that have been populated here. And then I will also can show you what the results will look like, and we'll also send that to Rebecca to include in the minutes for the meeting, and also send out to commissioners as well. So if you have any questions while we're going through this exercise, please please just ask, and either myself or Mark can answer.
Please don't be shy. Very preliminary. Anything can go in.
And just to note, it's also helpful for our purposes, the more specific you can be, just in terms of your statement, that can be helpful for us. I'm not seeing anything that I think needs further explanation now, but I'll keep an eye on things and may ask for some further clarification.
And everyone, it's Rebecca. I'm only seeing a couple, maybe 3 commissioners typing in. Is everyone able to participate? If you're having trouble, please let us know. We really want everyone's participation, even if you're brand new.
I can type, just thinking.
You guys
And
can go.
I wasn't calling you out directly, Dana.
Looks like maybe an idea here was maybe cut short. Okay, someone's figuring it out. You can, if you do want to edit instead of deleting, you can click on your item, and it'll give you this little edit button to the left of the item, and you can click that to edit as well. Can I ask, I'm sorry, which commissioner put in inflation as a threat?
That was me.
Uh, can you, is this, are you thinking more in terms of just inflation may make sort of the implementation of goals and policies and projects more difficult? Is that kind of what you were thinking there, or?
Yeah, like if there's a proposed budget now based on expenses versus what those things might actually cost once it goes into play, just because we've seen like
Sure.
material shortages cause like things to cost more.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're doing well. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Keep
these are
rolling.
great.
Jordan, can I ask a question? This is Rebecca.
Sure, absolutely.
Um, whichever commissioner typed in the complexity of 180 data-driven metrics, I'm not sure I'm following that. Could someone explain that to me?
Complexity of 180. Yeah, so we, um, are you asking, sorry, for explanation from our team as far as why we're collecting that much data, or is that
No, I think as you're talking though, I'm starting to understand. So, and it looks like we have a commissioner. Commissioner Martin's hand is up. Did you put that in there, Ryan?
That was me, but I was actually going to ask another question. But yeah, Rebecca, I may have misheard, but it sounded like it was planned to use the plan with 180 different data-driven metrics.
Okay.
My idea behind that is being a weakness is that it taking so much time and the complexity and the staffing required to actually use all those metrics and maintaining that metrics. I just think that could be what could be a potential strength, maybe actually be a weakness if it gets too complex. If that
Got
makes
it.
sense.
It does now. Thank you very much for helping me with that connection.
Yeah, and then my question is if we could pull up the goals again. I made pen notes, but there were so many of them, and it was very quick. And this is all new to all of us that I wasn't able to remember everything. That may be able to help us jog our memory, since we all are looking at the same brainstorm, anyways.
So I will pull up here. These are the. Let me make this just.
Yeah,
So these are this. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so the goal in the current plan 2030, it's called out as recreation. And then it's not called out as parks and recreation. So it comes out as recreation, and then there's a indication of parks. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there for
You
what
mean
this
that
commission is called. Yeah.
Sorry, Mark, you mean that the chapter in the regional plan is titled
Yep.
recreation, not parks and recreation, but it
Correct.
does, the goal and policies do include language about both parks and recreation.
Correct. So you start out with that primary goal, and then you list those policies to see if you feel those are consistent. We could flip to the next slide when you're ready. Okay to go to the next slide?
Yeah, I can go. Ooh,
Sure. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm fine with it.
so these two slides are the so there's one goal and 5 policies specific to recreation. Mark noted as well that there, language about recreation and parks is laced throughout a lot of other sections of the regional plan. We don't have those specifically listed out here, but if you wanted to take a look at those slides as well, we can do that as well. I guess just let me know what you'd like to see, and I can pull it up.
Yeah, why don't we go to slide 11, see what it tells us. And then slide 12 goes into the park language. So again, land use, what land's available, what you're currently managing. And then in my world of neighborhood planning, the fact that we have parks, how they're distributed.
I can pull this back up if anyone needs. I just want to see whether we still have typing and.
Nice.
They're on a roll. You guys are
Yeah,
doing great. Thank you.
This
Yes.
is really great.
We love it when it goes this way.
Would anyone like me to pull back up the slides at all for reference? Any particular slides? I'm not seeing any requests for that. Feel free to continue to add ideas, but I do want to just introduce you to the final piece of this, which is the rating exercise. So on your screen, you should see up in the top left this section that has the word rate, and if you click on that, it will take you to the sort of a similar screen, but with this little slider at the end of each idea. And what you're going to do is just take this and move it to the right for a higher rating and to the left for a lower rating. So this is on a scale of 1 to 10, and things that you see as more important rate higher, and as less important rate lower. So feel free to go ahead and get started rating things, and I will switch my screen to the results so I can see the progress.
How do you do that? The rating,
So
I didn't.
I'd click on this. Do you see this?
On the rate. Okay, I see it.
The upper left corner. Just click on that rate button, and it should take you to the rating screen.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
That was nice, whoever that was. I do feel like we need some lobby music or something.
Yeah, I think we've we need some elevator music or something. Maybe I think Sarah had suggested Jeopardy music or something of the sort. Still see a few of these bars moving around a little bit, so I'll give it another minute before wrapping up. I'll ask at that point whether anyone still needs to rate anything. All right, do any commissioners need any additional time to continue rating here? Not hearing any. So this is what your results look like. All of your ideas in each box, and then the overall rating. You can see these faint lines, where people rated the importance of each item on the scale, and then the orange line is showing you the overall average rating for that item. Does anybody want to ask any questions about these items? Make any statements or comments about the process here? If not, we can wrap up. And as I said, I will be I'll be downloading this and sending Rebecca a couple items, a PDF of this board and the I think we can download it as an Excel spreadsheet as well, in a little bit more detail. But I'll be sending those materials to Rebecca to forward on to you all. And just want to say again, thanks so much for your participation. That was really great. Some really good ideas in there.
Yeah, and again, we are just at the beginning of collecting initial data. we can come back. You can think about this more. So again, this is a 4-year process. So thank you so much.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Mark and Jordan. What a great process. I'm fascinated by that software.
Yeah, it is new to us, so we are happy to show you what it looks like behind the scenes as well, if you're interested.
Sure.
So great. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing exercise. Yeah, well done. Well, that was just easy to follow, easy to go through. Thank you so much for your time today. And again, like Rebecca said, thank you all the commissioners for your participation in that today. That was illuminating. Next on the agenda is a review of the commission update to City Council that will be conducted tomorrow. It's March 22nd.
Yeah, so I'll introduce this Commissioner Conway and Commissioner Parsons will be assisting me. We had an opportunity, kind of came a little bit last minute. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted because I'm going to pull up the presentation itself and we'll go over it. So we weren't able to really get the feedback of the commission on this. We needed to get it in for the packet tomorrow, but we didn't want to miss this opportunity to present an update to City Council and have that opportunity to be in front of them. So hang on, having trouble finding it. All right. Oh, here we go. Too many things open. Are you seeing this presentation?
We are.
We are.
All right. So, commissioners, your chair and co-chair and I were able to get together last week and a little bit from the week before and put this together. This is mostly your chair and co-chair work. And with that, honestly, Chair, I thought that maybe you could just run through this very quickly, kind of as a little dry run, and then just make sure the commission is good with what's being presented and see if you all have any questions. But really just wanted you to be in the know before this goes before council tomorrow.
Sorry, let me turn on the slide real quick. Hold on. All right, that's a little bit better, at least. I could see a little bit better. All right, hi. So yeah, tomorrow we are doing this update to the City Council, Commissioner Parsons and myself. Rebecca is going to introduce us, and I believe that just that first slide, and then I will kick off with talking about what, where the commission derives its authority, and that is from this city code, chapter 203, Parks and Rec Commission. There are 7 members appointed by the City Council. Currently, we are, I believe we have all 7 filled. Is that correct? Yeah. So currently, we have all 7 filled, which is a great, amazing thing to happen, especially on a volunteer committee. The functions of the commission, a very long legalese way of saying that we help recommend policy direction for recreational purposes, and that can be both in the space, in the physical space, in the facilities, in the parks, in those natural areas, or it could also be in the programming, in the activities, in the special events, and anything related to how the city's Parks and Rec and Open Space Department pursues offering recreational opportunities. The commission advises. The City Council may also consider the advice and recommendation of the commission, and then through that, the council could then give direction to the city manager to implement the recreation programming. typically, Rebecca, that would be we give the comment to the department, then the department goes to the council.
Yeah, if it's things that we're already working on and not adding like a whole new program or project to our work program, we work with the commission directly on that. If the commission is really interested in something that is brand new to us, that would need to go through as a recommendation to council, and then council would need to give direction to the city manager that yes, they want staff to work on that. Typically, what we're talking about here is stuff that we're already working on. And we're just asking for maybe priorities, which is what we're going to be talking about next, like what to work on first.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hopefully that helps with that distinction.
Yes. Yeah. Well explained. Yeah. Perfect. So, additionally, the commission shall review and make recommendations on the annual budget for Parks and Rec, of which the department through our existing commission meetings provides us with a budget proposal presentation, not a proposal, sorry, a presentation that we are able to give input on before it goes to the city council. I'm gonna have to be really careful of saying city council and not board of supervisors. I'm so used to saying board of supervisors, and it's taken me 10 years to get out of the habit of saying city council, and I'm gonna get right back into it and say board of supervisors.
You might explain that connection when you introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, just in case, it's gonna happen. County manager, city manager, city staff. And functions of the commission do include recommendations to the city council concerning the annual budget allocation of the Parks and Rec portion of the BBB tax, aka the bed, board, and booze tax. But as an FYI, for everybody's benefit, we as a commission have not given much recommendation on this fund because approximately 78% of the BBB fund that the Parks and Rec department has access to is going to base level maintenance at this time. So while this is a function of the commission, we have not really been tasked to do anything in this regard. However, from what we understand, there is a potential for one-time funds that we have been brought in on the conversation of how we might be able to utilize those funds to better the community. But on a typical, anyway, that's the end of it. I'll say that about that. I always got to stop 2 sentences before I really want to stop. And so just for the purposes of all of this, Parks and Rec, the definition of Parks and Rec for this charter, is the development and management of public parks, recreation facilities, and programs. So it's what we've already talked about, the parks, the natural areas, facilities, and the programming itself. But that can also include the very, very popular FOOTS system. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Co-Chair Parsons to talk about some of the recent Parks and Rec agenda items that we've discussed. Commissioner?
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we're going to bring up what we've discussed in previous commission meetings, and those include things such as Parks and Recreation Master Plan review, cost recovery policy, some of the pickleball needs, as we've discussed in many meetings in the past. We recently went over the Lone Tree Overpass and some park and civic space opportunities within that. The Thorpe Park Annex and the process by which that will get approved and designed. The pros reorganization, building review and discussion, the BBB Recreation 5-year plan review, and then our active transportation master plan as presented by Martin Ince, and then the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions and reopening. And then we're going to be looking at some of those same things in the upcoming Parks and Recreation Commission meetings, but those will also include regional plan update, which we discussed today actually, and grant opportunities, more of the cost recovery policy, and review of those current policies and fee structure. Then we've got the Thorpe Park Annex, that's ongoing, looking on the on-site public meetings, and then the review of the draft concept plans in the fall. So we're looking forward to that. New Parks and Recreation Open Space Master Plan, and then the unfunded capital improvements. And with that, like Ricky said, Currently, 78% of our funds are dedicated towards just base level maintenance. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Ricky to talk about those unfunded capital improvements.
Thank you, Commissioner Parsons. Yeah, we are really excited about opportunities for new improvements. Hey, Rebecca, how long has this list been about? I was going to mention that. Roughly how long has that list been kind of circulating with all those things on it?
As long as I can remember, which is 21 years.
Okay.
And we have definitely paid more attention to it in the last 3 to 4 years and updated it, but we have tried not to remove things that were previously included.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. So the commission has been presented with a list of unfunded capital improvement projects that could be accomplished by, as mentioned, grant projects or perhaps the BBB tax if we can leverage enough funds to do so. We at a recent commission meeting we talked at length about this list and have priorities in mind. This list, as you see it, is not prioritized. These are in no official order, but except for to say that the top section is park projects and the bottom section is recreation projects, but there is no priority rating to any of this. Projects in the parks world, and this is not the be-all end-all list. These are some of the major projects that we as commissioners thought should be highlighted as part of today's discussion, including the Christensen Park development, including, of course, the Continental Girls Softball Complex that we know has been a need in the community for ages, probably as long as that list has been around, that has been on that list. We've been hearing a lot more about pickleball and its growth and how that coordinates with the existing tennis group and their uses and growth and how to balance between the two. The availability of the Thorpe Park Annex coming about and how we can best utilize that new resource for the community. With regard to recreation, how potential aquaplex facility expansions. It's been a great facility for the community for over a decade. With routine maintenance here through every year, but what about substantial projects for that facility that could make it more usable or usable for more of the community, potentially even augmenting memberships, but based on expansions. J Lively, second sheet of ice. We all know J Lively is very well used, and so what revenue could be generated by the second sheet of ice, and what needs could be met by having another sheet of ice at J Lively. And for me, coming from Fort Tuttle County Park at Covio County Parks and Rec, as a special event facility, city hosts amazing events and does so inside athletic fields and other parks not designed for those large scale events. And so there have been effects from hosting those events on the softball fields at Fox Glen or the baseball fields at Fox Glen. And so what could be accomplished if the city were to have a special event facility as part of its offerings? So again, this is by no means an exhaustive list. We have priorities, and we have ideas of what projects we would try to accomplish if given the opportunity to do so, if given the funding mechanisms to do so. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions for myself or Co-Chair Parsons? Commissioner Martin.
Hi there. Great job. I think that's a great presentation. I really liked it. It put some effort into it, and it shows. Great job on it. I do have some additions that I think is important to highlight, though, on the regarding the unfunded projects and maybe the park priorities. Maybe we could, it's depending on how our meeting later goes today, regarding what we've established as our priorities are. Maybe we can change it, but I want two things I didn't really see on there, and I think are really important is the one being the facilities for staff. I think from my understanding, it still seems like a priority, at least to me, that the Parks and Recreation Department gets their public works yard building. I don't see why that shouldn't be a priority or mentioned. I feel like that's been forgotten, at least in city council. And then the idea of the West Side Park. We have a bunch of other parks, but we do have a current proposal that we're discussing still for the West Side Park. Other than that, I think everything looks really good and I really like it. Does that make sense? Or does anyone have any questions?
Could I chime in a little bit?
Sure, go ahead.
Excellent points. Thank you very much. We did put this together pretty quickly. I'll explain a little bit more in our next agenda item, but we, and this is new news, we do have funding for West Side Park. So again, we'll talk about that next, but so it wouldn't necessarily go on this unfunded list, but perhaps, Chair, if you want to talk about it in, just verbalize that West Side Park is something that the commission is talking about. And it has been a priority of the commission in the past. And then, of course, I think if we're able to come to some consensus today, which I'm hoping we are, but we've only got about an hour left, and this is a big topic that we're getting ready to dive into. We'll certainly provide those updates, but we, and Ricky can do that in kind of verbalizing, but we weren't able to get it in the presentation itself because that needed to be included in the city council packet that's already out.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay, well, that's only two things that I think are a priority. I'm excited to hear about the next agenda item, but I think in order for the Parks Department to get the facilities that they need for their own staff and for their new equipment, I think we should really highlight that issue that everyone else has a brand new facility except for Parks. And I understand why, but doesn't mean you get right. So that's all. I think you guys did a great job, and great job for the short period of time that you guys did this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else, anything hit the ear funny? Anything we may have didn't mention or I could brush up on before tomorrow? And it's tomorrow at 3, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, the council meeting starts at 3. Of course, commissioners, if you'd like to be there and join us or even sign in online, the agenda is posted online and you'll be able to stream the meeting, or you can be there in person. The 3 of us will be there in person tomorrow. I think we're the second or third item on the agenda, so it'll be a little bit into the meeting.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, there's nothing else regarding that presentation. Best to use our time to talk about the next and last agenda item for today, which might inform a little bit of that presentation here when we're done. We'll find out. And, oh, thank you. Oh, it's, yeah, the review of the unfunded capital project list.
So I did just want to point out that I actually, I did something on our agenda that I don't usually do, but I wanted the commission to have a full understanding of what we're requesting the outcome of this discussion topic to be. And it may not happen today, like I said, but eventually we need some consensus from the commission on the recommendations on project priorities. So that's where we're headed. At the last commission meeting, I did provide you all an emailed copy of the unfunded list, and we requested that you go through that and kind of prioritize projects. But we also have a lot of new commissioners. So if any of you need some context or would like some information on those items, please let us know. One thing I did want to make sure we do is number 1, a budget update, and number 2, review with you the previous commission priorities. So as I just mentioned, we did find out that some of the money that we had in the BBB recreation 5-year plan from 2 years ago that was held off on because of our recession plan for the West Side Park. That was the first year we actually had substantial funding planned for that project. It is back in the budget now, and we just found that out recently that that was real and that we're able to move forward with that. So it is actually real money in this year's budget that ends June 30th. Now, that said, we're not going to be able to get that. We're knee deep in this Thorpe Annex project and just don't have the capacity to pick up the West Side Park right now. But we would plan on picking up how to spend those funds within the next year to 2 years after we kind of get through this Thorpe Park Annex project. Right now, it's in the plan as West Side Park / Parks Capital Project, and it's $1.5 million, which is incredible. So that was a result of saving up money over several years, one-time capacity, carrying it forward and adding it up. So we do have that capacity. So one of the first things I want us to discuss today, after commissioners kind of feel ready to dive into this and answer any basic questions, is West Side Park still your top priority? Because that was a previous commission with different people as commissioners. So we'll touch base on that. Then that kind of leads us into the other previous commission priorities. We had framed the commission's priorities in terms of what we wanted to talk to City Council about at the time in terms of potential ballot projects. Potential ballot projects are a much different scale of funding requirement than, say, West Side Park. We think we can do some pretty cool things for a West Side Park with 1.5 million. You can't build a girls' softball complex with 1.5 million. You can barely even get started on it, quite frankly. So, you know, in terms of scale, that was the commission's first priority with money that we had available that was a reasonable project. Those larger projects really probably need to be bond funded. You know, it would take us a really long time to save up enough money in the BBB plan to do those larger scale projects. So Councilmember Salas, I just saw your chat. Is there anything, would you like to jump in before you have to leave and give us any updates or say anything?
Sure. I just sorry, it's me again being double booked on this hour. It's switching. It's
okay.
We person I have to drive too.
Yep.
So I just invite everyone to. There are 2 important community surveys happening right now online. The first one is through the Metro Plan, which is our metropolitan planning organization, the regional transportation planning entity, of which I also serve on the board. So there's this online survey. Please take that survey and let us know what is important to you in terms of regional transportation planning in the next 20 years. And then the other one is we also have the Cedar Flagstaff survey on the community bond. So what is important to you in terms of public funding? There are 3 options: public infrastructure, housing, and carbon neutrality implementation. So please do take that survey. And my apologies, I have to skedaddle again because I have to drive for an in-person presentation at 5:30. Thank you.
I think everyone understands you're very busy, and thank you very much for continuing to be here with us.
Yes, and feel free to reach out to me. I think everyone has my email address and my phone. If not, I'll type it again in the chat box. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember.
Arts. Yes.
All right. So coming back to our priorities. So based on what I've said already, I'm going to pause there and see if there are any questions about what I dropped a big news bomb on you. That's not a good phrase to use. I'm sorry. I gave you some really great news. And so any questions about that? And then especially from our new commissioners, or even those of you that have been here with us, if you need any reminders on what those projects are within the unfunded list. And I see Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, I actually was just looking at the list, and it looks like there's been some additions from last time. How does the cemetery projects work with us? I know that they are managed by the Parks and Recreation Department, but are they purview to this committee, or I've never had a conversation about this before.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. The cemetery is underneath the Parks Department. So we operate it just like any other park. Honestly, it's 36 acres of park grounds with some of the same features. So what's on here for that as far as an unfunded list, just to identify those, I think there are 4 items there, if I'm not mistaken, for the Citizens Cemetery. It's the at one point in time, I believe our partners in Capital Engineering wanted to do a new entrance. So the current entrance is off South San Francisco on NAU's campus. It's kind of within their NAU's landscape. There was discussions at one point in time about creating an entrance to the cemetery off Lone Tree, just to be able to adjust that so that we weren't competing consistently with NAU traffic. And then the cemetery does not have a master plan on how to operate it's a little bit over 36 acres. So that cemetery master plan would help staff identify how to develop and program the additional acreage that we do have for that perpetual care. And then there is, we did add a roadway repair and replacement line item in there on the unfunded list, because there is a roadway network within the cemetery property that is in need. It's asphalt roadway network. There's also some AB and aggregate roadways within there. And then lastly, it's just to continue our expansion of some of those plots and or acres within the cemetery. So there's a line item in there to expand the veterans section and some cremation plots.
Okay, that makes, I didn't know that was, it's never something that's come up in any meeting that I remember, other than like, the work that they do, but.
It is rarely discussed. You're correct, Commissioner Martin, rarely discussed.
Yeah, Rebecca, is any of those proposals in the upcoming budget plan for next year, or sounds like they're not? Like, I'm just wondering how big of a concern this stuff is for us to worry about for today's discussion.
As far as the cemetery, Commissioner Martin, specifically, or all these items?
The cemetery specifically.
The cemetery specifically, no, none of those 4 are I don't think need to be discussed today or prioritized today with the Parks and Recreation Commission. I could see, our next largest need will probably be to request a master plan, unless we could be successful in wrapping that into our PROS master plan, which we might have some success there. So that's why I don't want to spend heavy amounts of time on that item. I think our next largest need out of these 4 would probably be that cemetery veterans section expansion and cremation plots, as we need to continue to expand the grounds or develop the grounds that exist there for the future for services for our community and others.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then what is the Buffalo Park improvements? That's new too.
One thing, Commissioner Martin, before we move from the cemetery, do you know that we have been able to fund some things that were off, and we were able to remove it from the list related to the cemetery, and that was a columbarium. And that is in this year's budget. Believe it or not, we've got some supply chain issues with that. So that will be taking place next year. We'll carry forward those funds. So we are making improvements there.
Yes.
I had no doubt there. I've never seen that listed, and I didn't know if that was needing something to be urgent. So thank you. But regarding the Buffalo Park improvements, what is that?
Do you want me to take that, Rebecca? Okay, absolutely. You know, that may have been labeled on there differently in the past. We've obviously increased the dollar value as escalation continues to increase globally. The Buffalo Park improvements, you know, it's a sensitive topic, but we've got it on that list, and let's not remove it. You know, as I think most commissioners may or may not know, the existing parking lot at Buffalo, it is dirt aggregate, very natural setting. So it's not a striped parking lot with identified and organized parking spaces. So that is a line item there. Should we ever get to that point at that park, I think that we would, and we have in the past, maybe about 3+ years ago, heard from some community members where maybe an asphalt parking lot is not ideal in such a gorgeous natural area. Plus we have the McMillan Mesa natural area that surrounding this too. But that line item remains, but so that is what that is there to identify, is if that parking lot were, an actual parking lot were to be created and striped and organized.
But there's two Buffalo Park improvements. There's a 300,000 one and 1.3 million. Are those both parking lots?
The 1 point, go ahead.
I was just going to help Amy. I think, Commissioner Martin, these are some that have been on for a really long time.
Oh.
And so there may have been some intentions lost in translation of staff turnover. But there are a lot of improvements. I think we could all agree, both parking lot and otherwise. But I mean, 300,000 isn't going to get us a paved parking lot there, right, Amy?
Correct. I think the Buffalo parking lot improvements are, you know, we tend to see a lot of potholes as we go through both the winter season and the summer monsoonal season, where we need to work with our partners in streets and get a greater blade out there. And, you know, there could be some beautification that could be done. There could be some foots railing put up to really start to shape and identify what the true parking area is, even if left a natural, cosmetic, natural appeal look. So that is what that $300,000 line item defines for myself and from a parks perspective, where the 1.3 million would be for an actual parking lot.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was really confused between that. Okay, I will, for now, turn over my time. Thank you.
Commissioner Rowden.
I just had a quick question. Where is the West Side Park? Like, which park is that?
We ready for a map?
Thank you very much for asking that. I was hoping that you would, but I didn't want to assume. So let's get into it. So West Side Park is near the Boulder Point neighborhood. So if you envision where Staples is Staples still there? I think it is.
I believe this is Staples.
There's a hillside to, as you can see here, a little bit to the west of that Staples building. And believe it or not, go up that hill and that's all City of Flagstaff property. And it's been, so you can see there's a foots trail going through there, which is a great trail. It connects a lot of apartments that aren't showing up on this map. But yeah, it's off what's the name of that road? Highland Mesa.
Yes, yeah, it's South Highland Mesa Drive, which, and this is right here, if my cursor is visible, this is South Woodlands Village Boulevard. And then this intersection here is Forest Meadows. And yes, this is a commercial shopping center where I believe this parcel that is Staples, and then I think there's Bank of America and a few other retailers in that commercial development.
Does
Perfect.
that help?
Yeah, I know where that is.
Awesome. And there might be a question about why do we keep calling it West Side Park? That's pretty boring. It's because we didn't want to assume what the neighborhood might want to call it. So when we had envisioned this project, we actually were really hoping to get a lot of community or neighborhood engagement from this direct neighborhood. This would be a relatively small neighborhood type park, not a whole lot of amenities. Neighborhood parks are typically walked or biked to, not necessarily a lot of parking and amenities that draw a lot of visitors. And we wanted to get their input on what they might want the name to be. So that's why we just continue to call it West Side Park, because we haven't really dived into that public engagement yet. Commissioner Martin.
Where is the closest park, city park, next to this proposed park?
I would say the closest one, I'm gonna zoom back in, is this, actually that's the part 2. This green space right over here by De Miguel, it's University Heights Park. That would be the closest neighborhood park to this. The way the crow flies, it's probably under a mile, but the way you would drive would be differently. But it's a neighborhood park, so same classification park as the future West Side Park.
And
Okay.
that's why this location is pretty great, because this was an area of town identified as really needing a park in our master plan. And the nice part about it is that there is now a foots trail that crosses under the interstate right there. And so it actually helps us connect to the north end of University Heights as well. And yeah, so it's going to serve a good portion of our population that is underserved right now.
Is there any parks north of it?
North of it, and so trying to highlight those two so you can kind of get a visual of where they are. I think then, you know, to the northeast over here, if you're following my cursor, is Arroyo Park, where there's a Little League field and a Ramada. Also, again, more of a neighborhood classification. Ponderosa Trails Park, which would be south and east of it in the Ponderosa Trails neighborhood, is right here where my cursor is. And sorry if that's difficult to see. There's also Bow and Arrow right here, this little tiny triangle along Lake Mary Road. As you head north, you start to hit the campus, a lot of both residential and commercial development, and then you get to the 200+ acre Thorpe Park, which is right here. And if you can see this little blue area of the duck pond.
So in this section north of the 40, there is no park in the neighborhoods above it. In this whole, there's nothing. Okay.
Correct.
I would say in Plaza Vieja, there is Old Town Springs Park. It's just a tiny little thing too.
Okay.
Right here in green.
Okay.
And in terms of, you know, we got to think about it, being able to access the park. And again, thinking about that 10-minute walk to a park, 10 to 15-minute walk. You know, with any of these surrounding parks, you've got to cross interstates and things like that. The nice thing about this location, besides that it's already city-owned land that already has a foots trail in it, it also has that foots trail undercrossing, so it connects the two neighborhoods so that we can serve a larger population.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the rest of my questions. How are we planning on formatting our priorities list? Is there any mind, or should I just toss one out there and see what you guys say?
Well, first, before we dive into that, Commissioner Martin, thank you for that offer, and we'll come back to you. I really hadn't planned a super cool presentation or some sort of awesome software package like you just saw with the SWOT analysis. That was pretty cool. And I'm sure there's stuff out there, but I was really just wanting to get some conversation going. And, not anticipating we're going to come out with a full list today as we bring everybody up to speed on this conversation. So really taking some time to answer any other commissioner questions that you might have about what's on this list or what the previous priorities were. That would be really helpful. And Commissioner Martin, if I could just hold you for a second, if you could hold on to your question. Are there any other commissioners that have some questions for us that we can help clarify? Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Oh, I see a hand up. Who is it? Commissioner Stackhouse.
I guess that's a big list for me, and not knowing, I mean, without having, a whole lot of experience on this, could you share with us what their priorities were? And then maybe, I don't know, just a little blurb about why, just so that we can kind of start to get our feet wet, because I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, but I didn't want to assume that would be the case. So we'd be happy. Yeah, happy to do that. And Commissioner Kerr, I see your hand up. Would you like to address that, or did you have another question? Or Commissioner Parsons, same question to you.
I had another question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hang on to it unless it's related.
Nope.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to share this list again. All right. So the previous commission priorities, and again, they were really focused on what would we like to recommend to council for possible ballot questions. And after West Side Park was this girls softball complex. The previous commissions have held for years that this is the top priority of the commission, understanding that it's hard to achieve because of the price tag. So that has been very clearly at the top of the list for as long as I can remember, even before I was in recreation. The other parks that came to the top of the list, Christensen Park, and Amy can show us where this is. This was presented to City Council as part of a package for a possible racket facility, both tennis and pickleball. It's north of the mall. It's 11 acres of land. I will stop sharing so that Amy can show us where that is really quick. Some issues with that. It's a great piece of land and it's perfect for that type of facility. We're restricted a little bit on access to the site, as you can see here. There's an intersection that Amy's pointing to right there that is not built out. And then from there, that intersection goes up through U.S. Forest Service land. So we do have some money in a previous ballot initiative that we could use to acquire land for that access. But working with the Forest Service takes a long time. We have another opportunity possible for access that goes where Amy's cursor is now to the west of the property. That's an FUSD property right there. It's the Summit High School and Family Resource Center. and formerly known as Christensen Elementary School. That's why we call this the Christensen parcel. And we might be able to extend that roadway up into there. It has its own challenges. There are overhead power lines that would need to be undergrounded and things like that. So that's not a shovel-ready project, if you will. A little bit lower price tag, but it's still $7 million. And then the other priority that was presented to council that is more affordable is continuing to develop. You'll see Cheshire Park improvements and expansion at 3.5 million. There's some land there that is designated as parkland, but it's not built out. And so what we had recommended to a commission previously was that that could be built out as fields very easily, and fields are definitely a need in this community, like multi-purpose fields, like soccer fields. We would probably do artificial fields in this location because there's not a reclaim line nearby. So those were the previous commission priorities in terms of kind of ballot initiatives. And Josh, does that help? And those were the
It does.
priorities out of this entire list.
Did they
including the recreation.
ever, with the softball thing, did they ever like have an idea of where they wanted it, or?
Yes, so softball can go very easily out at Continental Regional Park, and Amy will zoom us over there. That's on the east side of town. Continental Little League exists there right now. And we have all the land between the existing park, well, almost all the land up to I-40, north to I-40. So we even have a little access parcel that we can get to that north end. And we also we can build out a road on the north side, of some new development that is going in to access the north end. So we would most likely do a combination of open space and a girls' softball complex at this property.
Thank you.
You bet. And in terms of where that went with City Council, as you've heard from Councilmember Salas several times, there are just a lot of competing interests for the city's bond capacity, and it just, because of all the other needs and the climate emergency and the housing emergency that have been declared, those are the priorities for the last ballot and for this one that's coming up in 22. All right, so hopefully that helps you, Commissioner Stackhouse. Are you good for now?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just looking for some context because I am lacking at all. So appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. And what we were trying to do with those three priorities was meet the needs that the commission has been hearing about from those different groups for years. So now next in line is Commissioner Parsons.
Thank you. I was kind of following up with what Commissioner Stackhouse was saying, is looking at this overall list and basing on those previous agreed upon priorities. Have there been items added to this? And then as we look at this, I imagine that as a commission, we might look at something as a priority, but in your minds, is it really a priority? Maybe there's other things that are more of a priority from your standpoint than developing a park, like the new entrance to the cemetery or something like that we look at and say, well, that sounds good, but it doesn't sound like a great, it's not necessarily our priority in our heads. Does that make sense?
It does. And without coming in and lobbying the commission or advocating for certain projects. That's not our place. But we definitely have been giving the commission our thoughts on what we might be able to do to affect the change that we think is needed for the community based on what we're hearing and kind of best standard practices. So that's where those 3 priorities I just mentioned to you really just continue to float to the top every single time. And yep, I see a chat about pickleball. That's why Christensen previously was a top priority, as we felt that we could get a pickleball complex that way, as well as help the needs of tennis. So, knowing that, and those are all kind of high dollar amounts, and based on what I presented to you at our last meeting in terms of some capacity that's now coming in our BBB Recreation Fund revenues, I'm interested in hearing now, based on what you all are hearing in the community, what you're hearing in these meetings. We'll certainly give you feedback if you seem to be headed towards something that we're just not really hearing as a need. We'll certainly help you with that, but we're not here necessarily to advocate either, and we try to be very careful to let this be a commission-driven process. I hope that helps, Commissioner Parsons.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Kerr.
Hello. So,
Hello.
quick question about that BBB 1.5 that we just got in order to work on the West Side Park. So you said that was as a result of the recession plan, like essentially saving for a rainy day, and then it dried up like most of our cloudy days here as of recent. So will something like that ever come again? I know you said that was a one-time thing for that particular 1.5 million, but are opportunities like that able to present themselves in the future? I'm not necessarily sure how that works.
So, Commissioner Kerr, at our last meeting, I went over pretty quickly our BBB Recreation draft 5-year plan.
Oh, yeah.
And what we're seeing in that is some good capacity. And so, yes, I do think that this is going to continue to come around if that capacity continues to grow. We've also had our budget discussions since our last meeting, and I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic that things are looking pretty good. I think they listen to us and they understand our needs and are trying to get us there. And so that's all really good news, including what you heard Commissioner or Chair Conway say was 78%. And that's just for this year's revenue compared to expenses. So that 78% might slide if revenues are higher or lower. But that we talked with our budget team about how if our expenses continue to grow, then that percentage will continue to grow and eat up more of the BBB Rec fund. They have agreed to try to cap those transfers out to general fund from BBB Recreation, at least consider it. And so what that means, if that can come forward, is those expenses are capped. If revenue continues to grow, then those expenses become a lower percentage of the total pie. And so more is going to be available for projects as long as BBB revenues continue to grow. So all of that means that we do have opportunities in the future to start planning out projects. That's why we're starting this conversation now, so that Amy and I can start building out projects into that 5-year plan that are approved by you, that are input by you, that you guys are actually able to do your jobs, which is help us plan the BBB recreation dollars and how they're spent. This list that you're looking at is just some ideas. I will tell you that there is flexibility with that 1.5 million for the West Side Park. If the commission decided that that's no longer a top priority and something else is, I believe that we're open to that. Again, a budget document is really a recommendation to council if it has your input going forward. And I can go back and say this is no longer the commission's top priority and this other thing is. That said, if it is still your priority, I'd like to hear that too. Does that help answer that question?
Yes, and kind of what I'm hearing, and maybe other commissioners would agree, is that we need to come up with two different levels of priorities, right? Priorities that kind of come from the budget in more like quote unquote low funding priorities that we can pull from the budget versus the huge softball complex or Christensen Park that would be more of a bond priority. So maybe we distinguish between those two levels amongst the commission.
I think
But
that
yes, that
is
helped. Thank you.
that's a great observation, and that really would help us, in this, I would say up to $2 million range project, and even a $2 million project is going to take us a few years to save up for. But what I'm hopeful for is that we're able to start setting aside funds for deferred maintenance with these revenues that we're seeing, that we're able to start saving for projects, and that we're out the gate going to be able to get some projects done. An example might be West Side Park. Another example might be what the commission has talked about previously about pickleball development at Bushmaster Park. We think that we could put some funding towards that if the commission kind of confirms those priorities. Makes sense, Commissioner Kerr, before we move on?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Commissioner Martin.
Okay. All right. So first question. I know the Thorpe Park Annex conversation is going on with the public right now. Besides the current funding for that effort, is there actually any funding for that development?
No, not directly. We did get 100,000 of ARPA funding that is in this year's budget. That is a little bit open-ended. I think it's just a drop in the bucket, I think, of what would be needed for full park development based on that concept plan. But at least it could help us either continue with remediation or help us with going from concept plan that hopefully council approves this fall to starting to design and come up with a design to make that project shovel ready to start construction when we're able to get funding.
Okay. Thank you. I thought that was the case, but I was hoping otherwise. Anyways, my next...
It is on the unfunded list as Thorpe Park Annex planning, design, and development at 1.6 million.
Okay, I just must have missed it. Thank you. Next question. So it doesn't sound like they are, at least at this time, we're not proposing to put any ballot measures for 2022 or 2024.
2022 for sure.
Yeah.
That's not an option. I have not heard conversation yet about 2024. I think some of that will depend on what gets put on this year's ballot and what gets approved and what capacity remains. What will be on the 2024 ballot is the BBB tax renewal, because that expires in 2028.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers that question. Can I just throw out what I think is a probable, at least priority list on my end?
I would actually turn it back over to the chair and
Okay.
see if you're ready for that conversation.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Excuse me. Hello. Yes. Let's have a dialogue. Thank you for the background and for filling in a lot of blanks. And you know, as you and I discussed, I wasn't sure what that West Side Park was. We kept talking about this West Side Park, and in my head, it was something completely different than what was shared. So I really appreciate us getting on the same page. I kind of, and I don't want to throw another real derail into this, but I kind of like the idea of, and we don't have to do it, but I like the idea of saying, okay, you have this amount of money. What projects do you want to get done in that amount of money? Kind of like you said, under $2 million project, because everything I highlighted as my priorities are all big ticket items. I mean, like so with it's almost like a shopping exercise. If you were to give me a budget and say, all right, now you're going to the store. Here's how much everything costs, and here's how much we can, you know, what do you then prioritize? I think we'd be having a different conversation, because I prepped with money as no option. Here are just priorities. Is the way I prepped myself for this exercise. So I'm not sure how others in the room, virtual room, did to prep for this exercise, but that was what I had done. And I only have, for myself, I did 4 items on one list and 5 on another. So I wasn't prioritizing every other thing, and I didn't want to, you know, utilize too much time on this. But if Rebecca, looks like you're ready to write down some stuff. And so I guess we'll kick it off with just raise your hand and we can talk through some priorities. I'll selfishly start because I have the mic right now, and I do what I want. So my priorities as I was looking through this were the softball complex, the girls softball complex at the Continental Regional Park Development. And I think we talked about this, but I still highlighted it, that field lighting upgrade to LED, because I felt like that comes at some cost savings potentially. Like if the LED are more efficient, then it kind of helps pay for itself. So to me, that seemed like a low-hanging fruit, something easy to accomplish. Foot's asphalt repair and replace program I had as a priority. It's super well loved, super well used. We just had a presentation with Martin Ince about the Foots program, and so I think if there's something we could do to support that, very, very beneficial program for the community. And my last one under parks was pickleball court development, as another one we've heard a lot about. And then real quick on recreation, and then I'm going to open it up to other people to converse and share. My recreation was the Aquaplex expansion of the 25-meter pool, the competitive lap pool, so the Aquaplex facility repairs, snow play area, get them out of Tut Hill, second sheet of ice at J Lively, and special event facility, get them out of Tut Hill. All right, anybody else with some wonderful thoughts? I did see hands pop up when I called for them. I think Commissioner Kerr may have been first, and then we'll go Commissioner Martin, then Stackhouse. So Kerr, you're up.
They're actually in order.
Oh.
Teams does that for us, and I know Commissioner Martin's been chomping at the bit, so he's actually next.
All right, Commissioner Martin, you're up.
Thank you. So I like actually Commissioner Kerr's idea about splitting off our priorities from what could be possible ballot measures versus what could possibly be like smaller pieces that we can actually maybe use with our funds from the current BBB tax revenue. I love the idea of the girls softball complex, and it's something I would love to champion as well as everyone else sounds like here so far. But I just don't think it's realistic for the BBB funding revenue. So my idea, so my priority list was West Side Park. I feel that serves a underserved community in an area that doesn't have very accessible parks, and especially with a whole neighborhood above it that doesn't have one. And then I like the idea of the Bushmaster improvements. So that would be the pickleball courts that we discussed before about adding pickleball courts to the Bushmaster Park as my second priority. And then and then Thorpe Park Annex. I think Thorpe Park Annex, while the area already does have access to the parks, I think it's a good place to expand maybe our park services and to maybe serve some of the short-term needs that we currently have. So that was kind of my ideas. For recreation, I think the priority list should be maintenance first. We need to keep our facilities very well repaired. So that facility capital repair is my major concern. And then I would like to see us to look into aquaplex expansion. That is something that seems a little bit more reasonable than the other items. And then J Lively as next. So that was kind of my thoughts there.
If I could clarify, the J Lively second sheet of ice.
I guess I'm reading it wrong. So I was thinking of the maintenance, so facility capital repair, J Lively replacements, aquaplex expansion, and then I guess the only things left is the snow area. Sorry, I misread it.
So you mean like the cooling towers and chillers?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so that was kind of my idea. I like your idea, Chairperson, but I like the idea of splitting out the girls softball league and the racquet court as possible bond measures for the future. I think those are more attainable that way for my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Kerr.
Cool beans. So, yeah, softball field. I think I don't need to keep saying the same thing. But I truly think that
it is good for us to hear it, though, that
okay.
it's still a priority. So yeah, don't discount your comments there.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I feel like the softball field and the Christensen Park development were already, and granted, when it was accepted by the public, we lived in a very different world. But we still, I think there's still that resonance that people are interested in those big projects. So we have public support for that, and I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind. I think if you're right, what Rebecca said about whatever doesn't get on the ballot this year will determine what happens in 24. But I think that we could make a good case for it as well. Anyways, but it seems like that West Side Park has been talked about, and we have the money now. And while I believe that the other projects are super relevant and good, we have we have to do that. I feel like there's no other option with that. That's been something that's been talked about for so long, and it's finally come about. So we need to jump on that and utilize that. But my next thing would definitely be, as Commissioner Martin said, the Bushmaster expansion with the pickleball courts. Having all those discussions throughout the summer was really enlightening and interesting and beneficial. Clearly, we have all these wonderful pickleball people here, so it's an important thing. But the West Side Park has been on the list for much longer, and I think we need to honor that, and that needs to be the top thing that we do. So that's what I think. Those would be my absolute main priorities. I don't think I have anything else to add unless someone has a question or something, but cool beans.
Sorry, it took me a second. Commissioner Stackhouse.
Now that I kind of understand what the girls softball thing is, the thing that I have had many conversations about, because my wife and I, for the last 14 years, have sponsored all kinds of events and things like that. I wonder if there's an opportunity, and I'm speaking from the private sector, an opportunity to kind of collaborate with some of the private sector people to develop, maybe what could be a girls softball thing, but what could also be something else that could hold like for a venue or something like that. And I know I'm kind of, this is unrehearsed, so I don't really know exactly how to say it, but a large venue that could hold a lot of people that you could have events at could also drive some revenue for the city. So, and that's, I don't know. I feel like that's an important component. I love to dream about all the things we can do, but it's always also nice that some of them will derive revenue of some sort to be able to put back into these things. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Just so I understand, I'm trying to keep a tally for my own interest. What was your priorities for certain? I'm sorry, Commissioner Stackhouse.
The softball thing. I know nothing about most of these other things, but we've sponsored enough events to where having a large venue that you could also use, not just for girls softball, but having kind of going on in that route, having an opportunity to use it for other things on top of girls softball. So.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Parsons.
Hi, I wanted to thanks Commissioner Stackhouse. I totally agree with him. And that sounds like a great idea to have something that's revenue generating, especially at Continental Park. I think that could work out very well. That being said, the 50 million that you have listed there, that's for the full build out of the park though. What would it take? Can softball be phased in and like 2 or 3 fields developed within a reasonable cost?
Hey, Rebecca, I'm gonna, if okay, I found our presentation from the ballot measures in 2020. So this may help identify what was presented again, nearly 2.5 years ago, but at least it'll give an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about just a softball complex at Continental Regional Park. So right here is existing Continental Park. It encompasses about 15 acres with 4 fields. One of them being a girls softball field and the other 4 for boys little league. Then there's this little sliver here. So everything kind of outlined in blue and highlighted in green is considered Continental Park. Then there's 16 acres right here. And during the February 2020 ballot measure initiative and presentations, this is where we had identified back then it was 15.5 million instead of 16 million, where we could place a girls softball complex. Then heading north here on this image going toward I-40 is the rest of Continental Regional Park, an additional 60 plus acres. So maybe, hopefully that helps identify where and what Commissioner Parsons is alluding to as far as, is there a way to partially develop some of Continental Regional Park? And yes, we think that there is, and this is where we had previously identified that potential ability.
So with that being said, I think a priority would be to develop at least, or start to develop some women's softball fields out at Continental Park. I think a higher priority right now, as we've heard over the past year from pickleball, is to develop pickleball at Bushmaster Park and look at other opportunities later on to add more pickleball throughout the community. It is a growing sport, but I also think there's a need for additional tennis courts. Right now, we don't have enough courts to serve the tennis community either. At least as far as putting together tournaments. 2 courts or 4 courts together don't serve the tennis community for putting on tournaments. So I'd like to see that as a priority, to maybe a combined racket facility someplace, whether that's Bushmaster or somewhere else. And lastly, I'm not giving up on West Side Park. I think that is a needed amenity in that neighborhood and one that's been woefully missing for a very long time. So I'd like to see that kept as a commission priority.
Thank you, Commissioner Parsons. Thank you, Amy, for again giving us some more details, context. I do see there's a request in the chat.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's something we may have skipped over, Chair Conway. If you'd like to make a call for public participation, this might be a good time to do that.
Perfect. Let's do a quick call, and I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. It is 5:58. You know, we're coming right up to the wire again, so please keep things as concise as possible. But yeah, is there public comment on discussion? I guess any of the, we didn't really call for any of the discussion items, but yeah, any comment, including Jen. Go ahead, Jen.
Let me see, now you can maybe hear me. Sorry, eating dinner, about to go to work. I just wanted to thank everybody for discussing all these options and remind you that pickleball is certainly one of many priorities that you have. A couple things I wanted to say, following up on the discussion that was had. Pickleball was included in a potential racket complex back in 2020. That is sort of off the table for now, as to my understanding, just for how expensive it is to develop Christensen. I would like the commission to really think about the possibility of developing just some dedicated pickleball courts. We obviously are looking at the Thorpe Park Annex as one possible site. I've been talking with Amy, and I know the commission has already learned about Bushmaster as another possible site. Beyond that, there's only one other site in town that I'm aware of, which would be the Cheshire Park. And I know that's sort of being considered more for fields. So that really kind of leaves pickleball with only Thorpe Park Annex or Bushmaster until we get to some big bond measure for Christensen parcel. So with the hundreds and hundreds of pickleball players in town and the only two dedicated courts that we have, like the to think about the possibility of dedicating some funds to building courts at Bushmaster. And I know initially we had talked about 4. I've been working with Amy a little bit. I suspect we could get quite a few more courts at Bushmaster, possibly even as many as, if we're really lucky, we could possibly get 20 courts there, which could meet our need and would then take us out of the running for other places. We could step back if we could commit to having 20 at Bushmaster. So just an idea, because I know a lot of the commissioners hadn't really heard details about where pickleball could go. And also maybe Amy or Rebecca could kind of mention a budget that could get us to an initial 8 or 10 courts with a build out eventually to 20 courts. It isn't the $7 million required for Christensen parcel. It's something much more reasonable than that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen, for your comments. I guess this is part of the process. Rebecca or Amy, do you have
Yeah, I think Amy could answer that pretty quickly. We can also pick this back up next month.
Yeah, I can't, I want to say it might have been the October or November. I'm not, your mind scatters 6 months from now, but that is when we did do a presentation regarding Bushmaster pickleball courts. We did at that time display 4 or 6, as well as provided estimated pricing on that. I do still think that with all clear grubbing, grading, drainage, lighting, and construction of courts, I think that we could do 6 courts for about $700,000. That's still kind of my barometer there. As Jennifer mentioned, though, we have identified that there's significantly some more space in this area at Bushmaster Park, so there could be the ability to do more than 6 at some point in time. Again, pending funding and when things were to be bid and constructed. As expressed back in October, November to the commission, Bushmaster Park is more shovel ready than any other location that we have currently. And that would be why on that unfunded list, pickleball's listed as a $700,000 value on our unfunded capital list that we've been displaying tonight.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's, we're not getting into many details or specifics about many of these projects at this point, just more a conversation starter of the commission's priorities and, not really going into that level of detail today here, but we have been presented on this topic and I would love to hear an update when one is available and it's timely to do so, if there is an update to be had on that. But for today's purposes, I feel like I heard a lot of commissioners mention pickleball as an unfunded project priority that we would like to see come to fruition. So I really appreciate your involvement, Jen, your participation, Jen. Thank you so much. And did every commissioner, was every commissioner able to get their input in on the project list?
We're missing one, but I'm not sure if Commissioner Rowden is ready to share her thoughts. I hate to call people out, but
No, it's okay. I'm still feeling like I don't know enough about all of the projects to make like a priority list, but I definitely appreciate everyone else's feedback and it's given me definitely a lot to consider.
Understandable. Yeah, there's a lot of projects on there.
I would add Commissioner Rowden, if you'd like to set up some time with either Amy or me to help you get up to speed, we're absolutely happy to do that. Just shoot us an email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Martin.
Maybe Rebecca, I could ask that we do another Parks and Recreation field trip. I noticed I didn't realize how new everyone was till we went through the presentation that the co-chair and chair made, and I saw everyone's from 2020 or 2021. So maybe we should have another field trip to look at this stuff. Just as an idea or thought. I enjoyed that, and it was really nice to see. So other than that, that's all I have.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, we've been thinking about that too. Just want to see a little bit longer what's going to happen with COVID.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Well, I don't want to skip over, but I do see on the agenda item for April 18th, we would be talking about return to in-person and hybrid options. So very timely and definitely, hopefully moving in the right direction of getting us back in person. Yeah, I think the entire time I've been on the commission, it's been virtual. And so it'll be really nice to attempt to get back in person again. And just because I'm talking about, so on item 8 on your agenda is what we will be talking about at the next agenda. So please do review that, come prepared with thoughts, ideas related to your comfort level and feeling on in-person hybrid option meetings. Again, the project review, any update, I guess that's something you'll provide to us again. But if Rowden and others, if you the list you have in your email, so continue to look at that, especially in the context of our presentation to the board or the council tomorrow. So I'm already doing it. And then C for next time is grant opportunities. So I really appreciate that they put the agenda for next meeting on this one, so we can kind of start getting our minds wrapped around it, because that helped a lot. The lead time on the unfunded project list really helped give me time to review that. So bouncing back up real quick, we finished discussion items A, B, and C. We already got our liaison report. Thank you for furnishing the monthly highlights. Anybody have any questions, concerns on those pros highlights that were distributed via email? Glad to see you guys are returning to more standard capacities at your facilities, the Aqualex and J Lively. Great job. Yep, agreed. All right, are there any, please make sure you do the bond survey. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kerr, please. Yeah, and I don't think I've done the bond survey, so I will, I need to get on that myself. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Kerr. Is that what Regina linked earlier? I'm sorry, Commissioner or Councilperson Salas? All right.
Yeah, she linked two surveys. One is a transportation survey and one is the community bond survey.
Make
And
sure.
just for those of you who don't know, Commissioner Kerr is serving on that Citizen Bond Advisory Committee. So you've got some inside knowledge there.
Hey, look at that. All right. Any other informational items to and from commissioners and staff? Again, we will be doing that presentation to the board, City Council tomorrow. Around starts at 3. We're second up on the agenda or so, so we'll be up hopefully fairly shortly after that. You can tune in to that through the web link for the Zoom. I think they're on. Are they in Zoom or Teams?
No, they're on. Well, so if you have public comment, that is a Teams waiting room for public comment for different areas of the agenda, or in person or live streaming through the website, but you're not actually in the meeting like you are here where you're participating. Streaming is just watching it. So those are the options we have at this time. And then kind of a hybrid conversation. So obviously council is back. They're still doing hybrid meetings and staff is following suit and kind of setting our plan in place for coming back in person. That's what I will update everyone on at our April meeting. And there needs to be some training for staff in order to do these hybrid type meetings. I do think we will be continuing with the hybrid options. They're super convenient, especially for the public to be able to attend from the comfort of their homes if they would like. But that's all what we'll be discussing in April, and I'll have more information to be able to share with you at that time.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's
and I
no
think if I may, so for next month's meeting, I think what I'll do is we'll talk about the return to in-person or hybrid options. Then let's agendize continuing the priorities list, and we can combine that with project review and updates. And we may or may not have time to get to grant opportunities based on what we're going to plan on presenting.
Commissioner Stackhouse, comment?
Rebecca, when I started with this, I promised, I told you that I had intentions of developing a friends arm of this commission to kind of work hand in hand with it. Just because I will tell you, the friends thing is very up my alley. It's all about raising money. It's about, trying to create awareness. Is there a reason that's never happened? Can that happen? I know you and I talked about it, but I also kind of wanted to ask that of the commissioners, some of the other people, Commissioner Martin, who's been on this longer. Is there a reason it hasn't happened? Just a real quick Reader's Digest version of a question.
Yes, so I'm thinking I can give really quick, but I'd almost rather this be an agenda topic and maybe for next month if you'd be.
That's fine. I have no clue how to get things on an agenda. I'd been biting my tongue on this for the last 2 or 3 meetings I've been on, and I just don't know how to bring this up or how to get this on an agenda. So I wanted to make sure I did this.
Yeah, this is exactly how, or you can email the chairperson or me as well, just for all the other commissioners. So yeah, there was one attempt at this a few years ago by a commissioner, but honestly, there just wasn't a lot of traction or the know-how to get it done. And I think commissioners, we're in a much better place now with Commissioner Stackhouse and his expertise. So yeah, I think this would be a great conversation to have either in April or May.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for letting me talk about it. I didn't know how to bring it up, so thanks.
You bet.
Commissioner Martin, did you want to respond?
I think it's just never been done. I don't think there's a particular reason. I think it's a great idea, and we did have an older commissioner who was planning on doing it, but unfortunately he left before he could complete that project. So that's pretty much the reason.
Yeah,
Okay,
I see a lot
thanks.
of value in a friends group. Yeah, from the county side of things, there's a lot of value to having that friends available, especially when you talk about funding and projects and things. There's stuff they can accomplish. That's harder for a municipality to accomplish.
Yeah, and I don't know the ins and outs of doing it for the city, but I've started to kind of get a handle on it for the county. And like I said, I see an opportunity here. So
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate bringing that forward and bringing that to the table. Don't for everybody. Don't sit on those ideas. And you know, if at towards the end of the meeting is a great opportunity to bring that up, or like was stated, if you email myself or Rebecca, that's a good way to get that on the agenda so that we can talk about it. But that's a fantastic initiative that I hope we can make some progress toward. All right, well, if there is nothing else, we've already lost Commissioner Parsons about a minute ago, so I'm going to follow suit. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday and have a fantastic week. We'll see you tomorrow, Rebecca.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great month, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Uh,
bye-bye.